Hi folks, over a week ago now I made a video where I was looking at all my Ibanez guitars from the standard series, the premiums and the prestige with a little bypass through the Korean models they no longer make. But I thought I would spend a bit more time and look at the real workhorse of the Ibanez range, the one that the sort of semi-pro players, gigging musicians tend to gravitate towards, and that is the Indonesian-made premiums. Now, the Prestige are absolutely beautiful, as you probably know, but the premiums are really not that far behind. And I want to look at that and explain why I think these are the bargain buy. And especially in the used market. And that's what I want to focus on, because this model is not a current model. This is a 2016, I think it is. This is an RG1070pbz. And I know there's an awful lot of musicians out there have this model and the ones that came out around this time. So I want to look at why this model is so popular, why the premium model is so popular and such good value. And the first thing I'll just get out of the way is the obvious one. The finish in these was stunning. A lot of the premium models have a beautiful top. This one is a burled poplar. And yeah, this is an amazing looking guitar. And it also has the matching headstock. Now this one I got, and I mentioned it before, I got this from Anderton's when I lived in the UK, because I asked them, did they have them in stock? Yes, they did. How many? They had about 5, and they sent me photographs of every single one, so I could pick the top that I wanted. And that was, that's great service. Anyway, the reasons for having this as your mainstay gigging working guitar, studio as well obviously, but I tend to look at things as a gigging musician. Now, I've said that before. So, little plus points and why this appealed to me as a guitar. Out of all of the guitars there were that I could have bought, why did I go for this? So, let's start. The trem in these is the same, and I've said this before, the same as on the standard series, but it's an incredibly reliable trem. It came with the 0-point system, which first of all I can adjust the spring tension using this wheel. I don't need to dive in there with a screwdriver. And it comes with a couple of extra springs and a stop bar here, so if you break a string, it doesn't go so far out of tune. However, I tend to remove that because I like the trem to do that warble, to have that kind of cat's meow thing. And when it's too tight, obviously they don't do that. So besides that, that was removed. These don't have coil splits, coil taps into the volumes. It's a straight volume, straight tone. But a 5-way selector. Now, the other thing that was a real appeal to me were the pickups. Now, I'm not super fussy about pickups, however, this came with all DiMarzio, Tone Zone, True Velvet, and the Air Norton. Now, I knew the Tone Zone was quite a full range, it's quite a dark sounding pickup. It's not got a lot of top end, which is not so brilliant for doing pinched harmonics. It'll do it, but it's not going to jump out at you like it would from a PAF Pro or a Evolution. Now, the True Velvet in the middle, I had really only heard about through a few interviews on different things, YouTube being one of them. I think it was even Nita Strauss had mentioned how much she loved that True Velvet pickup. So, like I said, I'm not a big user of the middle pickup, but hey, if it's recommended by a proper professional guitar player, then you've got to pay a bit of attention. Still make up your own mind, of course, because They play their way, I play mine, you play yours. And the Air Norton is another good, well-known, well-road tested DiMarzio pickup. And I've used DiMarzios in an awful lot of guitars since the early 1990s, so very familiar. Everything else is standard RG body-wise. It's a basswood body with this poplar top. Basswood, basswood, you decide. The neck I thought was stunning. It's Wengi, Babinga, whatever, maple, I'm not sure. There's a whole list. I used to know it all off by heart. However, I just thought when I was looking at this, how beautiful a neck it is. And in the back was even better. It's an 11-piece neck, which is probably a bit of overkill, but made it an incredibly stable neck. It's an incredibly slim wizard neck, as you would expect. And the detailing of the neck is what really defines this as a semi-pro or professional instrument. Because this was all stainless steel frets. The newer version uses a kind of hardened system they use. It must be kind of like a tempering system, but still incredibly hard wearing. But these were stainless steel, and they all had this stunning rounded finish. If you have a look at the, it might show up in the camera. Those fret ends are all rounded off. Comes with the lumen lay inlays on the top, so if you're in a dark room, it lights up. The mother of pearl inlays are actually really nice, and is it mother of pearl or abalone? It's hard to tell the difference, and you can hardly see in the light, but the Ibanez logo as well is a similar thing, and it does that kind of almost opal type effect. It just catches the light really nicely. So it's a very professional guitar with of course, bring it up there, the Ibanez, the volute to strengthen the neck. So that's really that part of it. Then the tuning pegs. Locking Goto tuning pegs. Again, a very professional thing to have on a guitar. Makes string changing so easy. Pull the string up, lock it at the back, just a knurled wheel, lock that, and then it's literally a couple of turns and you're back up and playing. I would always recommend, if you are gigging, please carry a second guitar with you. It's always quicker. If you're like me, you don't have somebody backstage ready to restring your guitar for you, and you just look like a complete melon doing that on stage halfway through a song. So yeah, have a spare guitar always. However, this does make string changing much quicker, even although it's got locking nuts. That's not the point. This is not for tuning stability. The locking tuners don't offer any more or any less tuning stability on a floating trem with a locking nut. However, it still makes string changing much easier, much more slick, and just, as I've added before, one less thing to stress about. So, excuse me, tone wise today I'm going to be, as usual really, I'm going to use the Bugera 333 XL, and the reason is it's got a clean channel and a crunch. The Jet City is still probably my favourite out of the two, but it doesn't have a pristine clean, and you need that just to hear some sounds. Although you may never use clean, some of you do. So I'll do some clean. So the bridge, humbucker, tone up, and we will play some strummage. humbucker. It's not super harsh and super bright. So it'll do from your rock, blues, jazzier tones. It will do heavy metal as well. So it's a very versatile pickup. It's certainly one of the more all-round pickups. All-round, it's a round tone. So position 2, which is splitting the tone zone, adding in the true velvet, and so it's got that kind of spank. It's do nothing that'll get me struck off here. So it does, yeah. You know, you can get away with things. Middle pickup on its own, the True Velvet. Again, these are not cheap pickups, but you'll hear for a single coil, it's not super bright. It's not super thin. My Ibanez Gem has got the Gem middle pickup, the single coil, and it's much brighter. It's got a harshness and a brittleness to it. Whereas this, very usable, as I keep calling it, the unloved middle child. However, that's quite a usable middle pickup. The one that I use mainly in the out of phase settings is position 4, where I'm splitting the front and using the middle. And that so yeah, that's really a nice, almost nice stratty kind of tone. If I just put on the SD1 with the clean channel, again, works really well with that. The neck pickup, as you would expect with the Air Norton, is a nice, big, full, round. Yeah, that does all the nice warm big chords. Nice, right, crunch channel. Oh, you won't really see it, it's up there. My old Boss SE50, which is probably older than a lot of you watching this, is doing the bit of delay, that's all. So, crunch channel, quite a bit of gain on this. But the RG, it's still very much a rock guitar. So bridge humbucker, big and warm and round. It's not this thumpy, scratchy, mid-focused pickup. It's probably not the modern metal pickup. It's a bit more old school. So I would actually say if you were playing a guitar and you find it's a little bit on that edgy, brittle side and you want something a little bit darker, the Tone Zone's a great pickup for that. Just remember, it's not going to squeal at you like a Seymour Duncan JB does. It's not going to have those pinched harmonics jump out at you. However, you can still do them, and there's no boost on that. That's just the gain in the amp. So if I put forward a bit of gain using the Boss SD1, you'll hear the noise just rock it up, but I've not put any noise gates on, and I try not to because I want you to hear what this will do. Actually, I'll just do that when I roll the volume back. I know an awful lot of people tend to just think of the volume as an on-off switch, but really there's a whole plethora of tones that you can get just from your volume. And also when you're playing live, again, back to live, it's far easier for you to get a crunch tone by rolling off your volume control than having to leg it back across the stage to switch off a gain or switch on a different drive pedal. Have it set so you can just go from your complete all out and then come to the quiet part. And you've got all this range and control, and that's not even selecting different pickups. That's you using your volume control. And anyway, it's not a guitar lesson. It's nothing to do with tricks of the trade. It's just how a good pickup, nice, decent volume control should give you a nice, controlled gain increase. Not necessarily a volume increase. You know, if I'm playing there, that is essentially as loud in the room as that. That is a perceived increase in loudness, but it's actually a lot more kind of top end coming through. Now these, again, I've said before, these do come with a treble bleed circuit as well. It's still in this one, but I've disconnected it. Again, that's just me, but I don't like rolling off the volume control and having them being thin and bright. I like them being a bit duller and warm. Personal choice. So with all that gain in the second position, I'll just quickly do these. You don't tend to use this with this amount of gain, but and the neck pickup you will probably use for lead stuff. And if I turn the volume up, so again, that's really usable. Bungling a boost onto that. Now I'm only using the crunch channel of the amp, and so it can go an awful lot more, but I would rather run crunch and boost it than run the amp in a very high gain setting. It just gives me more dynamic range and control from the instrument. So boost on. So it's quite dark, but it's thick and solid, really good rhythm sound. But that also translates when you're playing some lead, because that thickness, even on the bridge setting, gives you this richness in tone, and it sings rather than stabs at you. So yeah, the trem works and it stays in tune as well. Yep. Anyway, into the next sound, which is another one you'd use for a lot of lead playing. Again, with this model, very rich in singing. So there you go. Anyway, what I would... Shh, noisy boss. Okay, what I would say is this guitar stays incredibly stable. It's fairly, I wouldn't say expensive, but they're now up in price. They're up around the €1,500 mark now, which is getting pretty steep, considering in 2016 I think this was about €500 less. So they have risen. However, used €600 is quite common to find premium Ibanez guitars. So you're getting a lot of kit and a lot of good quality workmanship for the money. And that's where I would tend to look. The used market in these, going back from 2010, 12, 14, 16, 18, you're getting a huge choice. There's finishes galore. Yeah, really good buy. So if something like this is what you're after, check Marketplace, check eBay, check Reverb. You will find these kicking about. This model I know came in this finish and an absolutely beautiful kind of coral blue effect. It was really nice. But I went for the dark greys and woody tones. It was in my kind of classy phase, and then I ended up with a tiger stripe Kramer. Check that video out. It's a great guitar. Anyway, we'll finish off and I'll bid you good night. And it's a Friday evening, so I've got other things to do. And I'll play you out with a little bit of I've done Van Halen back and forth. I'll do some Gary Moore. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe, and good night. Bye bye.